There was no parking lot at Rattlesnake Point. After pulling off to the side of the road, I got out of my car and made my way up to the steep, rocky slope towards the trail. This was not a tourist destination. Most people who lived around town didn't even venture up this way, and certainly wouldn't get out of their car and set off into the woods here, but I was a semi-experienced hiker and felt confident in my $200 hiking shoes, my canteen full of water clipped to my belt, my backpack heavy with the weight of too many carbohydrate-laden snacks. I had heard stories about the place, but had never ventured up there myself. Word had it that the trail earned its name. There were snakes and other wildlife to be found in the forest, but also fantastic views to be had from the cliff, which ran alongside the trail. What drew me in more than anything were the caves. The place was pockmarked with them. They dotted the trail and could be found all over the area. From the pictures I had seen, it was a very unusual and alien-looking landscape, like a termite mound. Tunnels opened up here and there, and all along the top side, while on the other side, a sheer cliff dropped away a couple hundred feet to the forest floor below. There was not one other person on the trails with me. I had the forest to myself as I made my way down the path. I saw the first of a few caves and tunnels, small ones, but the bigger caves are further in. I knew from my research. The snakes didn't scare me so much, as I knew that rattlesnakes emitted a noise when they heard a predator. So I just listened carefully for the soft rattling sound and prepared myself to stop on a dime if needed. Making my way through the brush was easy enough, as there was a path wide enough for a person or two to travel along, although occasionally branches reached across and had to be pushed aside. I walked along that way for an hour or more, just enjoying the trees and the birds singing in the branches. To my left was a breathtaking view that showed a forest as far as the eye could see, and above that a beautiful blue sky with white puffy clouds that were blowing lazily along. Going around a corner, I heard a distinctive rattling noise coming from up ahead. Slowing down until I was barely moving, I approached it, a large rattlesnake on the path ahead. I reached into my pocket, thinking I would take a picture of it, and I realized I had forgotten the damn thing in the car. I had been poking my thigh in an uncomfortable way, and I had gotten frustrated with it and set it in the cup holder. Oh well, I told myself, just enjoy the moment. You don't need to take a picture of it. After a steep uphill climb, I found a rock to sit on and decided to relax for a little while. I was glad I had my canteen with me, as my throat felt dry and harsh already, but was soothed with a couple sips of the cool water. During the entire hike up, until that point, I had not seen a single person. I was beginning to think I should come back to this place again soon, since it was so quiet, when the rock I was sitting on began to tip backwards. Before I could grab onto anything, the loose ground beneath the rock gave way, and I was falling. With nothing to stop my descent, I went straight down the steep hill behind where I had been sitting. I began to bounce wildly into the air as I picked up speed. My body tumbled and pinwheeled down the steep slope. The last thing I remembered was the skull-splitting pain of my head hitting a tree. My jaw snapped shut too hard, with a sickening sound, and then the world went black. I woke up in a pit. Light was visible streaming in through a distant gap up above, but other than that I could see nothing, shrouded in total darkness. I could barely see my hand in front of my face. And then I heard the sound coming from all around me, the soft rattling sound of not one or two snakes, but hundreds of them. Thousands, perhaps. As my eyes adjusted to the light, I found I could see them better. There were so many of them. They were everywhere. My heart was already beating fast, but sped up double time. I could feel it throbbing in my head as well, in my temple and at the back. When I reached back to feel the spot where it hurt, my hand came away warm and wet with blood. The rattling sound was getting quieter, and I realized the snakes were well aware of my presence. They were not attacking me. At least not yet. In the dim light, I could see none of my supplies. The only thing still with me was my trusty canteen, clipped to my belt with a sturdy loop of steel. My backpack was gone, my sunglasses, my hat, everything I had brought up with me was gone. Probably went flying off into the forest as I bounced down the hill, knocking myself senseless. I realized with dawning horror that I had not told anyone where I was going. Since I lived alone, it would likely be days before anyone found me. A sick, queasy feeling began to rise up within me, and I felt faint, thinking about the fact that nobody was coming for me. The only thing to indicate I was here was my car parked at the side of the road, and at the end of the trail, an hour's walk from where I was. I'm going to die down here, I thought to myself. Sadness and loss began to creep in as I considered all the things I would never get to do. I would never go traveling to Europe or get married. I would never have kids or grandkids. I was going to die down in this pit full of rattlesnakes. And a thought occurred to me. There might be a way out of here, you idiot. You just have to walk through the pit of snakes and explore a bit. I stood up on shaky legs, and the rattling sound began again in the darkness from all around me. My eyes searched for a place that was free of snakes to put my first step, but I found there was little to speak of. There was no other entrance or exit to the cave that I could see. "You're gonna die down here," said a voice from the darkness. It was gruff and raspy like a lifetime smoker. I jumped at the sound of it. "Oh, definitely. He's definitely going to die. There ain't no question of that," said another voice from the other side of the cave. "He's a goner, all right. She'll have him for supper." The form emerged from the darkness, and I saw it was a man dressed in a white suit. He walked calmly through the writhing, slithering mass of snakes towards me. I saw he was wearing a white bowler cap and carried a cane with him. His face was kindly and clean-shaven, his hair dark and well-kept. "What's your name, son?" "Dead meat, that's his name. Snake food, kicking, sniveling rat." "Ignore them. What's your name? They just haven't had visitors in ages. And that one there has never known how to act properly." The man held his hand out to me for me to shake it. "Jordan," I said, taking his hand and allowing him to pump it briskly twice up and down. It felt small and weak in his firm grasp. I guessed by this new, unexpected turn of events that I had suffered some severe head trauma, but then the fact that I recognized this as a distinct possibility seemed to rule it out somehow. Good boy. Man, I should say. You're a man, aren't you?" Yeah. Well, that's just excellent news. See, we've been waiting for a man, a human man. You're a human as well, are you not?" "Yes." "Well, see, that's just perfect, because we've been waiting for a human man to fall down the hole up above, so that we could..." He paused and seemed unsure how to continue. "So that you could what?" "Oh, well, that is frightfully embarrassing, but here it goes. We need to sacrifice him." "What? Shh, you're going to scare him off. Now, come on, out of the shadows now, you big galoots. I need your muscles. He's going to get all squirmy now, thanks to you and your big mouth." As I screamed in protest, the rattlesnakes began to rattle and hiss in annoyance. 2 more men came out of the shadows as I wailed and howled for someone to help me. Their giant feet somehow did not crush the snakes, nor did they bite them for reasons I couldn't understand. My crazed mind told me, though, they had an alliance with them. These are not men. They make pacts with vipers. Indeed, I realized as I looked closer, these were not men, but something else entirely. And they had been waiting for a long time for someone like me to fall down this hole. Perhaps they had set it all up, arranged the precarious rock at the top of a steep hill, begging for someone to rest on it. Booby-trapped it to cause someone to fall down a steep hillside behind it. The pieces came together in my mind as they stomped toward me through the pit of snakes. They wore charcoal black suits, and the four shook as they marched toward me. Demon goons with wide jaws and shoulders to match. Grab him up now. Let's take him to Mother. She'll reward us after this tasty morsel. Come on, quickly now. Hello? Called a voice from up above. I was too shocked to call back for a moment, and then a rope fell down and dangled in front of me. Grabbing onto it, I yelled up to the light in the ceiling to pull me up. Looking around desperately, I readied myself to fight off the creatures, but they were gone. It was like they'd vanished into thin air. The light grew larger and larger, and I hung onto the rope for dear life as I was pulled out. Looking down, I could see nothing but snakes, hundreds upon hundreds of them. The man who pulled me out said he had heard me screaming bloody murder and had run down the hill to help me out. He was a hobbyist caver, so luckily he had ropes and other equipment with him, as well as two friends who followed after him and assisted in rescuing me from the cave. It turned out, although very few hikers visited Rattlesnake Point, it was a popular destination for cavers and spelunking enthusiasts. That was what the three men were there to do. My screams had caught them in their tracks, though. "That's a nasty cut on your head," one of the men said to me as they assisted me down the path. "Yeah, I guess I'm lucky to be alive after that fall. And after seeing all those snakes down there." "Oh no, did you get bit?" I raised up my pant legs to look for the first time and saw they were swollen and red, weeping pus and blood and serious fluid. Bite marks could be seen in several places. You probably better dial 911, said one of the men, before the world went black and I passed out for the second time that day. I woke up at St. Joseph's, hooked up to IVs and a heart monitor. The nurses told me I was in the ICU, and that I had been there for days, delirious and screaming about snake demons and human sacrifices. I apologized profusely. The hospital food was decent, better than my usual microwave fare at home, and I got to keep my legs, at least, so that was a real plus. Next Monday is my discharge date, and even though I'm scared, I want to go out to the woods again. I always loved walking in nature. I can't wait to get back out hiking again. But one thing is for sure, I'll never go back to Rattlesnake Point. The story was written by Jordan Grupe. A link to the original post is featured below. And if you'd like to check out more from this author, he actually has a book out, Beneath the Asylum. A link for that, a link for the Amazon page can be found below. Please check it out and let him know what you think. Please join me next week for another terrifying tale. Stay safe and have a horrifying week.